The problem. Current markets are flooded with competition. More and more companies are competing for smaller and smaller profit margins. This cutthroat battle leaves the waters bloody. This is the red ocean. The solution? Swim away from the competition. Make the competition irrelevant. Find somewhere that is wide open. Create a blue ocean.
Welcome back to What You Will Learn. My name is Adam Ashton.
And my name is Adam Jones. Today we are reviewing Blue Ocean Strategy, how to create uncontested market space and make the competition irrelevant by W. Chan Kim and Renee Maurborgne.
Nice, mate. That was our third take of the intro because we kept stuffing up that surname and I reckon you got pretty close. So we'll leave it at that.
Mate, I reckon we drifted further and further away with every time I pronounce her name. But anyway.
Mate, so this idea of blue oceans has come up in a couple of other books we've done, specifically Perennial Seller and a whole bunch of other books talk about this idea. So I was glad to read it and get the full understanding of the analogy. So you've got your red ocean, which is the current market space. That's what's known today, and that's where all the competition is, and it's red because of all the blood.
So with the red ocean, in the red oceans, the industry boundaries are known and accepted, and the competitive rules of the game are known, and companies try to outperform their rivals to grab a greater share of existing demand. And as the market gets crowded, everyone's competing more and more just for the same customers. So the profits and growth are completely reduced, and you're in a red ocean where it's just completely bloody waters, and you're just destroying yourselves and destroying each other.
That's it, mate. Once the red ocean gets filled up, the products and services start to just become commodities. People are just competing on price. It's just a race to the bottom in that everybody's undercutting each other. This cutthroat, bloody battle turning the ocean red, which is obviously not a good place to play in because, as we said, very limited potential for profits, for growth, and it's just blood. Blood everywhere, mate. You don't want to be in the red ocean.
So the place we want to go right now, right? So we're going to get our sailboats and we're going to sail out into the clear blue waters.
That's it, mate.
So this is defined by the untapped market space, demand creation, and the opportunity for really highly profitable growth because no one's out there competing. You're creating in this new blue ocean.
So they say that red ocean is all about competition, but blue ocean is about making the competition irrelevant. You're going out into this uncharted waters and just doing your own thing. And the authors say that sometimes the blue ocean is right next to the red ocean and sometimes it's just miles away, a completely brand new thing. But either in wherever the blue ocean is, the competition's irrelevant, the rules of the game are waiting to be made, and it's just a space where you can make your own.
So to focus on the red ocean is therefore to accept the key constraining factors of war, the limited terrain and the need to beat an enemy to succeed. So you're operating under these assumptions. So these how everything's going to play out in the business world.
As you say, it's like a violent, visual, emotive imagery of this red ocean, this battle, of this war, where is not the place you want to be. You want to be in a nice, calm blue ocean where it's just you out there making all the rules and making all the dosh.
So it's always going to be important to swim successfully in these red oceans by out competing on the rivals. But with supply exceeding demand in a lot of industries, competing for a share of markets will not be sufficient to sustain high performance. And so companies need to go beyond competing if they want to get the profits they want. And that's all in the big, beautiful blue ocean where the sun is shining.
Exactly. It's a nice place to be, that blue ocean.
Oh, yeah.
In the middle of this introductory chapter, they talk about how this book is similar to a couple of other ones that we've done, In Search of Excellence by Tom Peters, and Good to Great and Built to Last by Jim Collins. But the authors, of course, say their book's much better because the reason being that In Search of Excellence focused just on the company, and they said there's no company that's awesome forever. And then Good to Great and Built to Last, they said it was actually more about the industry rather than the company. And they say no industry is the best forever. So they say they've got the ultimate book, Blue Ocean Strategy, because they focus, rather than the company, rather than the industry, they're focusing on the strategic move. So they say this Blue Ocean, it's about the strategic moves that companies make to become great or to become excellent. So they say that focusing on strategy is more important than focusing on a company or an industry. That's obviously their view, and that's what the rest of the book is about this strategy.
So in a nutshell, the difference between the strategy is the red ocean, you're focusing on purely on the opposition in the market and trying to compete with them. But when you're on the blue ocean, you're focusing on the actual value you're giving to the customer. So it's all about this concept of value innovation and innovating in that area.
Value innovation. They say is the cornerstone of blue ocean strategy.
Yeah.
And equal emphasis on value and innovation becomes value innovation. Yeah.
That's it.
Mate, so they give six steps, I guess, or 6 things that you need to do. But before we get stuck into the 6 things, chapter 2, they give us analytical tools and frameworks. So there's a couple of cool things here that they use throughout the book. So this is just to sort of get us set up. And one is the strategy canvas. Yeah. And so obviously it's probably more of a visual thing, but it's what they do is they have from top to bottom is low to high, and then across the bottom, horizontally, then you've got all these different factors. So they use an example of, say, Southwest Airlines. It might be the factors that are important would be price. It would be, on-time arrivals. It would be the length of flights. It would be the comfort of the plane, or it could be the lounges that you have at the airport, priority check-ins. So all these different factors that go into airports, and then different airlines will have different weighting, of these things. They might have low price, but then they've also got low first class, perks.
So that's the strategy canvas. So you need to map this out on a say piece of paper or something, and so label all these criterion, and then position where you are between 1 and 10 on all of this. And what you're going to find is a lot of the competition, they're pretty similar. They're competing on the same areas, but he's saying, or the authors are saying, he and her are saying, that they should, you need to compromise on some and then strengthen in other areas. And the way you can do that is by using the 4 actions framework.
Yeah, exactly. You can't have everything as high. So they say there's 4 actions, which I think is really cool. There's like 4 things you need to do, or 4 things you can do, which is eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. So these are the 4 actions.
The first question is, which of the factors that the industry take for granted should be completely eliminated? And this question forces you to eliminate factors that the companies in your industry have always competed on. So
if you can find something that everybody's competing on and putting effort into, and you realize the customer really doesn't care about this, and you can eliminate it, that's a massive win, first and foremost. So like some of the airlines realize that barely anyone uses the airport lounges. So if they completely eliminate airport lounges from their offering, then there's a whole bunch more value they can add in other places, because you can't do everything well. So if you can eliminate one thing that no one cares about, that's a massive win.
That's a big compromise. And the second big compromise is which factors should be reduced to well below industry standards. So again, you can't aim to be perfect in every criteria. You need to choose things that you can actually just drop the ball on.
Exactly. So after you've eliminated some things, you've reduced some things, next we want to raise some things. So which factors should we raise above industry standards?
And number 4, which factors should be created now that have never been offered? So that's just pure innovation. So
that's then if you're thinking of this visual strategy canvas, then the factors, they're on the far right. They're brand new things that you're adding in that is just you. So there's going to be no competition there. Yep. So obviously it's easier said than done, but they're the 4 things you need to do is eliminate, reduce, raise, and create. Mate, do we want to tell the story of Yellowtail?
Yeah, we'll have a crack. So, mate, Yellowtail, he talks it up, and he and her talk it up in this book.
Mate, they say it was the best wine ever.
Oh, mate, I made a mistake about 6 months ago. I bought it at a local BWS, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever tasted in my whole life. It's the most disgusting wine ever. Anyway,
but apparently they made a lot of money in the US, mate. It's an Australian winery that smashed it in the US, apparently. So they were saying that, this book was written in 2005, so however long, 10, 15 years ago. They were saying that the US alcohol market was dominated by beer drinkers, occasionally some spirits and cocktails, but most people didn't drink wine because it was framed as either really, really cheap shit, like they call it jug wine or cask wine or goon, or it was really, really expensive, pompous stuff for snobs who have all these fancy tasting notes and the wankers, essentially.
Yeah, all the wankers. So if you put the strategy canvas, so to speak, of the wine industry, a lot of it was, on the level of snobbiness, the aging quality of the wine and the taste and all these kind of arbitrary things. So with the Yellowtail, they asked the 4 questions framework. And what they did is they eliminated above-the-line marketing and aging qualities. They got rid of the whole aging question altogether.
They removed all that wankiness around the fancy snobby wines.
So then they reduced the wine prestige and complexity of the whole range. So they just had the very small
They literally
range.
just had one white and one red on offer. That was all you could choose from.
And then they raised price, but they created easy drinking, fun and adventure. So that's the thing they brought into the whole wine industry, fun and adventure.
Yeah, that's it. Easy drinking,
like
mate.
The next day after drinking that disgusting brew.
Mate, it goes down like nails or cat piss, mate. It's not great. But apparently they made a lot of money, so good on Yellowtail.
So they created a whole new market space. And then, even the beer drinkers and all that who aren't necessarily wine drinkers, they could all of a sudden start drinking wine. So they sailed out in the blue ocean of, the whole new industry of beer drinkers.
Exactly. So if you think of the two red oceans of wine, there was the cheap shit, like the really, really cheap, disgusting goon, or there was the really, really fancy, snobby, expensive stuff. So Yellowtail sort of went in the middle where they made something more expensive than the cask wine, and they removed the snobbiness, so they just had this blue ocean all to themselves.
Absolutely. So part 2 of the book is formulating blue ocean strategy. And chapter 3 is all about reconstructing the market boundaries.
That's it. So we're talking about how we've got these confined, defined spaces of the red ocean. And so in order to find blue ocean, you need to change these boundaries, reconstruct these market boundaries, so looking beyond. And they call it the 6 paths framework, obviously something they just made up themselves, but they're saying there's 6 places that you need to look at in order to think, how can I reconstruct these market boundaries and construct a blue ocean?
So the first path you can take is looking across alternative industries. So for example, people go to the movies for the same function that they go out for dinner. So these are not substitutes, but they're alternatives to choose from. So they could borrow something, some of the qualities that people have from the night out, and then take it to the movies, and then there's a whole new, bit of a new blue ocean. Yeah,
as you say. So that's what they call alternative industries, where they're unrelated seemingly, but really they serve the same purpose, the same ultimate goal.
Part 2, or the path 2, is about looking across strategic groups within industries. So she has an example here of a Michigan-based construction company called Champion Enterprises, who looked across between 2 strategic groups of housing industry and prefabricated, on-site development and prefabricated housing. So on one hand, the prefabricated houses are cheap and quick to build, but are very standardised and have this low-quality image. But developers who are all about on-site construction have higher quality but are more expensive. So what they did is they went down the prefabricated route, but at the same time, they offered a really high-quality finishes in their builds. So they added the high-quality element to the prefabricated housing, and which no other of the prefabricated housing players were actually doing. So they created a new blue ocean there and sailed a bit into the the developers' kind of red ocean.
Nice. So path 3 was looking across the chain of buyers. So essentially they say that there's a purchaser, a user, and an influencer. And there are 3 different options that you can sell to. So as an example, most medicine and pharmaceuticals are sold through influencers, which is the doctors who are selling it rather than going direct to the customer, the end user. And for example, that office supplies might be sold through the purchaser, which is the office manager, again, rather than going through the user. So you need to think, is there some way that everybody in my industry is currently selling through, and can I use one of the other channels?
Another path, number 4, is looking across complementary product and service offerings. So again, taking movie theatres, it's really hard for the young parents to go out and go see a movie because they need to hire a babysitter. So this is, movie theatres could actually offer babysitting as a service. So it's a complementary product and service, so they can add value to the moviegoers.
Path 5 is looking across functional or emotional appeals to buyers. So they're saying that you can either appeal to the functional use or you can appeal to the emotions of it. So the example here is about concrete in Mexico. And so they were saying that, concrete in Mexico, normally concrete is just sold as purely functional. You lay a slab of concrete and then you build a house on top of it, just functional. Whereas this Mexican company went for the emotional appeal of it.
Yes, they took the functional thing and then they turn it into we're building homes, we're building your life. And then from a marketing point of view, just made it like a real emotional investment for them. Path 6 is looking across time. So, what trends have a high probability of impacting your industry? So there's a lot of things happening right now in the world, like, many technologies are on the way. There's lots of disruption. You've got global warming, which is creating the need for sustainable products. So there's loads of trends that are coming on the horizon. So you need to look across time to see what's actually coming.
Nice. So in summary of this 6 paths framework obviously all the red ocean, you're going out there to do your research of the red ocean, looking at your industry, looking at the strategic groups, looking at the buyers, looking at the complementary products and services, looking at the functional or emotional appeals, and looking across time. So you're defining the red ocean, and then what you want to do is find which of these areas can I create my blue ocean in? Where can I be different to my competition? And obviously you don't just want to do the opposite of everything. You need to find the one or two key areas that you can differentiate yourself to create your blue ocean.
The next part of the book is reaching beyond existing demand. So no company wants to venture beyond their red little comfortable ocean and find themselves in a little puddle. So they're in a blue ocean, but it's a shitty little blue puddle.
I like it, mate. Was that just on the fly?
No, that's
Is that
used
the
the
book?
word puddle. She used the word puddle somewhere.
I was going to give you the credit for that one, mate. I didn't read that, but yeah, nice.
Fuck, I should have claimed it. So how do you maximise the size of the blue ocean you're creating?
Yeah, as you say, you don't want to just find yourself in this tiny little blue ocean. You want a real Pacific-sized ocean. So the traditional approach to companies looking for new customers is finer segmentation. So they try to customize their offering and offer special, specific, individualized things to individual people or individual groups. But they're saying that the more you customize, the more you segment your market, the harder it is to actually be profitable still by offering all these different things. So instead, we need to be looking at different sorts of finding new non-customers to add to our blue ocean. So you got a good example of the Big Bertha.
So yeah, there's three different types of customers, and what you're just saying there is when you're just focusing on your existing customers, you're doing finer segmentation of what you already have. So you need to look at new customers and people who aren't really in your existing market yet. So the Big Bertha is a good example of this by Callaway Golf. So this created a blue ocean view by asking why sports enthusiasts had not taken up golf. So why are the people out there who enjoy sport, why haven't they taken up golf? And the big part was they kind of suck at it. it's a tough.
It's hard, yeah.
It's a tough sport. You got this little head on the end of the golf club, and then when you swing, you miss it and hit the edge of it, and the ball will fly onto Nepean Highway in Cheltenham. It's actually happened to me.
It sounds like personal experience.
So what they did is they created the Big Bertha. So it's this huge head on the end of the golf club. So even the people who suck at golf can swing, and they're likely to hit it in the middle of the Big Bertha. So that's a whole appealing to the whole market of people who aren't golfers yet.
Exactly. They've made it easier for these non-customers to become customers. So the authors say there's 3 tiers of non-customers. So the ones that are the closest to your market are ones who are sometimes buying your offerings out of absolute necessity. But in their mind, they're non-customers, but sometimes they will, if absolutely necessary, they'll buy it. The second tier is people who refuse to buy your industry's offering. So they know about it, but they've voted against it. They've actively chosen not to buy it. And then the third is people who have never even thought about it, don't know you exist, essentially. So there's 3 tiers there, and they say that you got to go for the biggest catchment. So there's no hard and fast rule. It's not do number 1 first, number 2 second, number 3 third. Pick whichever's biggest and most easily accessible, and it's going to be different for every company, and go for the biggest one to make that biggest possible blue ocean.
Oh yeah, so that's reaching beyond existing demand.
That's it.
So going to sailing in the new blue ocean islands. And the next part of the book is get the strategic sequence right. So there's 4 different parts to this, but the first thing you need to do is it's all about buyer utility. So is there exceptional buyer utility in your business idea?
I like it, mate. That's a good question. Are you actually offering good shit? Because they've got 6 stages of the buyer experience, and across each of the 6 stages, they've got 6 utility levers that you can pull.
Mate,
so
I think
there's a bit of jargon in there.
Oh, absolutely. I think you articulated it better than they did in the book. They devoted 10 pages to this, but the way you said it, is your shit good?
Yeah.
I think that's
that's buyer utility.
Yeah, rather than the 5 different stages and the 6 different aspects of each stage.
So number 2 is price and strategic pricing. And again, there's a whole lot of jargon in this about rival goods, non-rival goods, excludability, the free rider problem, network externalities and network effects. But mate, basically, is your price accessible to most people? Is your price a good price that most people can buy it and it's worth buying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty common sense.
So that's a simple one, yeah.
And the third one is cost. Can you attain your cost target to profit at your strategic price? I like this.
This is interesting in that they said that you should do a price minus rather than a cost plus. So they're saying that obviously step 2 is price and step 3 is cost. So you start with a price and then you subtract out your desired profit margin to get you to your target cost. Rather than thinking, here's the cost, to make my price, I'm just going to add 10% to get the price. Yeah. So price first, subtract your margin, then that's your target cost, and then you work out, can we actually create this at this cost? And that's the important thing.
Absolutely. So that whole cost plus idea, you can just tell it's very, very red ocean where people are just
very
competing
red ocean
on price.
Yeah.
The fourth one is adoption. What are the adoption hurdles in actualizing your business idea, and are you addressing them up front?
So in summary, they're the 4 things that you need to do to assess your opportunity, to assess your blue ocean. Firstly, by utility, do you have something that's really good shit? Next is price. What's the strategic price that most people can buy it at? Next is cost. Can you actually achieve the cost, which is price minus the profit? And then adoption. Are you going to be able to engage employees, business partners, and the general public to adopt this? If you answer no to any of those things, scrap it.
Absolutely.
You have to say all of these have to be a yes in order to commit to this, and get to that blue ocean.
So at this stage, we have done a bit of scouting. We've found a whole new blue ocean. We've checked it out. It's not a little puddle. There's a fair ocean there. But now it's the rest of the book's all about execution. So, when you go into a blue ocean, it represents a significant departure from the status quo. And this is covered in a lot of books. So when you go against the status quo, you're pretty much always going to have resistance as a default. So this part of the book's all about dealing with resistance we're going to have internally in, say, big corporate kind of organisations.
Yeah, this is very key for, they call it organisational risk. So there's going to be a lot of resistance. And the first big hurdle is going to be a cognitive hurdle. So that's the idea of, the big managers and big leaders of the company thinking, why do we actually need to change? So in order to get over this cognitive hurdle, you need to, what he says, ride the electric sewer, which was an example from the New York Police Department. But you need to essentially get your managers and leaders to actually see it for themselves. Show them the front line, the operational horror that's out there, and get them to actually understand the issues that they're facing, rather than just sitting at their desk in the ivory tower from head office, just thinking everything's smooth sailing. You got to get them out into the front line to see the shit that's going on, and also get them to speak firsthand to the most disgruntled customers and the biggest vocal detractors to find out what they're doing wrong and what they need to fix.
The second thing is resources. So with the blue ocean, it's not about going out and getting more and more resources to execute this strategy. He says the real good leaders, the tipping point leaders, concentrating on multiplying the value or the resources you already have.
That's it. So you can either, redistribute resources toward these hotspots of the blue ocean, and at the same time, you've got to redirect resources away from the cold spots, the things that aren't working. So as you say, it's not about getting more resources, it's just maximizing the effectiveness of the resources you already have.
And the third is all about motivation. So the first thing is zoom in on the kingpins. The best way to zoom in on the kingpins is not to appeal to everyone, but focus on the big puppers, the key influencers in your organisation that people care about.
That's it. So it's like the natural leaders, people who are well-respected, people who are persuasive, people who have got the ability to unlock these key resources. They're your kingpins, and you need to focus on them.
So with the kingpins, you put them in a fishbowl, make them visible and transparent. You make them look like gods within the organisation.
Exactly.
And then the third thing you need to do is atomize to get the organisation to change itself.
Atomize it, mate. Make it like atom. No, make it like atom. So breaking it down to that was a weak gag. But mate,
I've been whipping out some shockers the last few weeks.
Mate, so breaking down the change into bite-sized pieces so that everybody knows the role that they can play in creating this blue ocean, so that not everyone can just say, oh, this has nothing to do with me, ask the boss about it. Everybody's got their own small atom of the change that they can create.
And number 4 is all about the politics. So I'm going to butcher this word. Secure a consigliere on your top management team. So someone who's highly politically adept, highly respected by insiders, knows all the landmines within the organisation, and knows who's going to fight you and who's going to actually be on your side.
That's it. So if you're the wanker guy at the top of the food chain who doesn't really know, you need this consigliere who's the guy who's been in the trenches and actually knows.
Sounds like a bit of a rat.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
guy, really.
the double
He's telling
agent.
you who's yeah, exactly, absolute double agent.
And the other thing in terms of politics, he says you need to leverage your angels and silence your devils. So if you think of a bell curve, most people in the middle, they're going to do whatever is being done essentially. But then on either end of that, you've got the angels who are the ass kissers or the guys who are going to do everything possible to make the company happy.
Absolutely.
And you've got the devils who are going to be the ones who are going to fight it. So essentially you need to focus on the angels and the devils rather than the mass.
Absolutely. So when Rat Timmy tells you, oh, you know, Johnny over there, he's going to give you a hard time. He's the devil. So you need to destroy Jimmy, fire him pretty much. And then, you know, Katie, on the other hand, she's an angel. She's a great person. She's going to be on this board. And then you need to promote, you know, Katie.
Yeah, I like it. And so it's counterintuitive that we want to move the masses, but in order to move the masses, you want to focus on the angels and devils. So, yeah, counterintuitive that you think you're not meant to focus on the masses if you want to move the masses.
Absolutely. And finally, man, so conclusion, the sustainability and renewal of blue ocean strategy.
Mate, so creating a blue ocean, it's not a static once-off achievement, but it's a dynamic process. So you make this, you're in the red ocean, you think, I want to get out, you go through all the steps outlined in the book, you make a blue ocean, you're happy, you're making lots of money, but that's not the end of the game because eventually people are going to slowly realize this dude's out there swimming by himself, let's swim over to him and take some of that
Take a
and
bit of
cut his throat and make the
Yeah,
ocean
exactly.
red and bloody.
So yeah, eventually the blueness is going to start to get a tinge of red.
Yeah,
And then, you know, that's when you get to start moving again.
exactly.
So every blue ocean strategy is going to be imitated if it's a good one. So as imitators try to grab a share of your blue ocean, you need to launch offenses to take your hard-earned customer base.
Yeah, you do, mate. They say that you've got to keep swimming as well, become a moving target, and always obviously looking for the next blue ocean. And they say that, you know, don't be so afraid to move on that you miss the blue ocean you're already in. You've got to swim as much as possible in the blue ocean, making yourself a moving target and maximizing the blue ocean you're in. But don't swim for too long until it turns red and then you're just back in the red ocean, mate. So you need to dominate the blue ocean for as long as possible, but be ready to move on to the next blue ocean.
That's it, man. So yeah, that's it for me in terms of notes,
Yeah, blue ocean strategy.
mate. So
When I first read it, I was getting the intellectual arousal. Then I thought this is a sick book. It's a good 8.5 out of 10. Really cool stuff. But and then when I went through notes, summarized it. Normally when I summarize a book, it gets better. This time it got worse. I found that the ideas were very weak.
I think it's an extremely strong analogy.
Great analogy.
It's a great analogy, very visual, and you can really connect with it, and it sticks with you for a long time. However, throughout the book, as we kind of alluded to, it just has a 10-page analysis of some kind of arbitrary concept that they pull out, and when it could just been explained in one sentence, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good book, man. There's no other books out there that really explore this idea of, you know, sailing into new market space. So in terms of value, it's definitely worth a read because it will be in the back of your mind in future, understanding some of the things it talks about.
And I think if you're at the top of a big organization, this is really, really important in terms of strategy and in terms of ways to implement all this stuff. I think for small guys having a crack at their own thing, the idea of the red and the blue ocean is important, but the specifics are much less important and much less applicable.
Absolutely, man. So what do you give it?
It started as an 8. It ended up as, I want to say 7, but there's no 7s allowed anymore, mate, so it's got to be a 6.
Yeah, mate, I'm exactly the same. I probably started as a 6. I wanted to make it a 7. Put it down 7, so it's a 6.
It's a 6.